Hey guys, Cass here from Metal Bones Jewellery, and today I'm going to show you the tools that I use and recommend for sculpting wax using the Lost Wax Build-Up method. This video is part of my online course, and if you're looking for a downloadable PDF tool list, I've left a link in the video description and you can grab it there for free. If you find this video helpful in any way, don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps me out. Thanks guys, now let's get started. First up, it's great to have a tray to work on. It keeps things safe, whether it's resting your soldering iron or catching any hot wax. Plus, it collects wax debris and any rogue gemstones that might fall out of your design. I picked this one up from the supermarket for about $10. This blue thing is a vise, and I bought mine from my local hardware store. I use it every time I make wax jewelry, and normally you'd secure it to your desk, but I like to keep mine mobile, so I just keep it in the tray. It swivels 360 degrees, and you can adjust the jaws using the swivel on the right. This just makes it perfect for holding my sculpting mandrel while I work. I usually work with wax tubes because they're just easier to handle. You can also buy the same wax in large block form, but that means you'll either need to melt directly from the block or saw pieces of wax off as you go. And in my opinion, the tube is just so much easier to maneuver. You're going to need masking tape, scissors, and a pen or pencil to mark out your ring size on your mandrel. Speaking of mandrels, there are lots of different tools that are referred to as mandrels, so I like to call this particular one my sculpting mandrel. You can get them in metal or wood, both work well. A metal mandrel is better for hammering to resize rings, but if you're just sculpting wax, then either one will do. This is a ring sizing mandrel with different sizes on each side. One is for the US and one is for EU sizes. I prefer to work with US sizes, but it's totally up to you which one you use. This one is plastic, but they also come in metal, and you'll use it to check the accuracy of your wax models and the size of your finished pieces. I don't usually use this tool very often because it's more for wax carving than sculpting, but it's used to carve out the inside of a tube to increase the size of the piece. It has a small blade running down the side, and you can see that it also has sizes marked along the edge. This is called a wax carving mandrel. When it comes to files, I'm not too picky. I like to use files from the hardware store, and my kit usually includes one large file, like this half round file here, which I use for shaping and refining my models. I also have multiple smaller files, which are easy to find at hardware stores. They usually include half round files and other unique shapes that come in handy for wax carving. This is a regular jeweler's saw with spiral blades, and they're specifically designed to cut through wax with ease. Now, the spiral design prevents the wax from remelting together as you slice through, and to insert and remove the blades, you simply adjust these screws at the top and bottom, and the knob on the side adjusts the tension of the blade. So you want to hear a ping like a guitar string to know that it's set correctly. This is an aluminium ring sizer, and mine includes half sizes ranging from 0 to 13, meaning, for example, that I have both size 8 and size 8.5, and these come in various sizes for both EU and US measurements. You'll use this to mark out your ring size on your sculpting mandrel. Now, I use sanding sponges on my wax models because they're softer and they're better at hugging the curves of the wax. You can also use regular sandpaper sheets on their own, or you can wrap them around a sponge. I like to use multiple grits from as coarse as 60 all the way up to 1200. So the lower the grit number, the coarser the paper and the more wax you're going to remove. The higher the number, the finer the grit, meaning you'll remove less wax and your design will have a smoother finish. This is a wire brush, and I recommend keeping one of these in your wax kit and using it at the end of every wax session to unclog your files and to keep them working effectively over time. You'll need a scalpel or a craft knife, and ideally your blades should be replaceable. And for this one, you just simply unscrew the top and replace the blade. These are super sharp, so be very careful when using them, and always keep the cap on your knife when you're not using it. These are drill bits, and on the left is a setting burr and on the right is a spiral drill bit. Now, I use these for setting stones in wax. You can use them by hand to create a hole for your stone to sit in, or you can attach them to your rotary tool. If you're using a setting burr for a round stone, you need to make sure the burr matches the size of your stone. For example, if your stone is 5 millimeters, your setting burr should also be 5 millimeters. However, with wax, it doesn't have to be exact and you can experiment a little bit more. I like to use these by hand to create a pilot hole and then sculpt around with either a knife or a soldering iron. This is blue tack, and sometimes I like to use a tiny bit to hold gemstones in place while I'm working on the wax model. It's also handy to have a paintbrush in your wax kit to brush away any of the wax flakes from your design. You'll need a lighter to smooth out any bumps and to add a final gloss to your piece. This is methylated spirits, and I use it at the end of my design process to clean up the model and on my gemstones, as it effectively removes wax residue from the stone surface. And if you're not keen on using this chemical, I've heard that orange oil works just as well. These are the soldering irons that I use to melt the wax into the shape of my design, and the blue iron I generally use for finer designs because the tip is quite thin and the handle is like a pen, so it's extremely lightweight. So it's good for adding claws and bubbles and smaller details like that, but I really do use the ProTech for every design, no matter what. It ranges from 100 to 450 degrees Celsius and can be adjusted using the dial. Now, the tip is replaceable because over time your iron may run its course and it may need a new tip. They're pretty cheap to replace, and honestly it's better than throwing the whole thing away if that ever happens. So the spring on the side here keeps your iron secure when you're not using it. And the other iron that I use is a bit more generic. It has a slightly larger tip, and historically I've suggested using these irons because they can melt more wax at once, but I've found that even the smaller ProTech iron can melt a decent amount of wax if you're using the thicker part of the tip. Overall, both work pretty well, and as long as you can adjust the temperature, you should be pretty fine. And last but not least, you will need a cleaning pot. As you work, your iron will collect wax, and you'll need to continuously wipe away the buildup. Now this helps to prevent any excess smoke, it keeps the temperature of your iron accurate, and you avoid damaging both the iron and your design. It'll also help prevent the little black burnt bits of wax from floating onto your model. Over time, you'll need to rotate the steel wool inside to keep it effective, and be sure to empty the tin as wax collects at the bottom. Always be gentle when wiping the wax off to avoid damaging your iron. These are all the tools that I use for my wax work, but you can definitely start with a much smaller wax kit and build up as you go. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next lesson.